welcome to Down Home Horror, where we keep the hall lights on for you. I'm Alex.
And I'm Amber.
And today we're doing another beautiful episode of Shudder Sunday. Huzzah! Ooh. If you're new here, Shudder Sunday is our own very special mini-series, a podcast within a podcast, where we are talking about Shudder exclusive or original movies that are, once you know it, on Shudder. Do they sponsor us? No, but we sure do like them and the content they make, so we decided to go out and tell you all about the movies that they make. So here's the thing. Because there's a writer strike going on, not sure if you heard, but there's a writer strike going on. Usually we keep our Shudder Sundays less so on the spoiler side. We try to keep them short, sweet, vague to entice you to go check out Shudder, right? It's great. It's wonderful. We're going to kind of squeak around our own rules just a little bit. As far as talking about these next few Shudder Sunday movies, we are going to kind of talk to whatever speaks to us. That might include spoilers, so if you are trying to avoid those, I would not recommend this video and any other video that we make while we're talking about or during the strike, moreover. This week was my pick, and I picked Hunted, which was not the movie I really thought I picked. I'm so sorry. For a few reasons. One, I realized the movie that I thought I wanted to watch and what I thought this was what is called Alone, and it was made in 2020. It's also not a Shudder exclusive.
Okay.
But there are similarities in some ways. This movie, the trailer talks about a woman who gets kidnapped and has to go brave the forest while men are chasing her. The trailer makes it seem like it's kind of a religious thing, a ritualistic. It's not.
Unfortunately.
If you read one of the 3 different, summary posts, it says it's a radical Red Riding Hood retelling. I guess technically so, but barely in the rubric. But hey, in case that's not enough of a heads up, here's actually the second Shudder write-up I've seen. This is the main one when you look at under details. What started as a flirtatious encounter at a bar turns into a life or death struggle as Eve becomes the unknowing target of a misogynistic plot against her. Forced to flee as 2 men pursue her through the forest, she's pushed to her extremes while fighting to survive in the wilderness. But survival isn't enough for Eve, or she will have revenge. Sorry, there's a lot already. Trigger warning. This movie has so much assault in it, or at least very strongly suggested happening assault. I don't think we actually see anything gratuitous, but it's highly insinuated.
Yes.
Highly insinuated. Nothing in the trailer prepared me for that. There's nothing in the description that prepared me for that. So Amber, I am so sorry.
It's fine.
You can't have stories with that.
Right.
However, with how heavy that was a part of the plot, I feel like it should have been somewhere. Literally anywhere.
I agree.
So that's like the elephant in the room, if you will. What are some of your initial thoughts before I keep rambling, Amber?
So my first impression, very first right off the bat impression of this movie was, I'm here for this, because they start out with this really cool animated storytelling backdrop that has a lot to do with that religious element that you were talking about initially. And I want to know what happened to that. But it had a really strong start with that. I was really invested just because of that animation style that they did, and the older woman narrating all of it to her kid. It was really fucking cool.
It looked a lot like shadow puppets, but not like hand puppets, but old school doll shadow puppets.
It did.
It was really well done.
It was so fucking cool. And I don't know what happened. I don't know.
And then past that, it just went downhill. I don't know.
Yeah, it was one of those things that happens and then never comes back around. And I don't want to say never. I mean, there was a couple of times where it started to hint that it was coming back around, but it doesn't fully follow through on those points.
Or why? Really? It just kind of does.
Yeah. I don't know. I understood the thought process behind like
Mhm.
radical retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. It was a good foundation, for lack of a better word, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really land in any way, shape, or form the way that I was hoping that it would. It was kind of in that department specifically, it was just a little bit of a letdown for what it's marketing itself as.
This might surprise you. I love fairy tales. Nothing about my
Shocking.
anything around me, I'm sure, would indicate that. And I want more horror fairy tales, right? We got Grimm's. Listen, they're spooky already. Don't be cowards. They're open to the public, open domain. Make it happen. If we can make a spooky Winnie the Pooh, we can make a spooky Cinderella. It's not going to take much, I promise you. I don't think you need to make it radical. I'm even thinking of like what the original Little Red Riding Hood's about. There's already a lot of death.
Hmm.
And I get there's like this insinuation of in Little Red Riding Hood of like taking away innocence, right?
Right.
We didn't need to go hard into assault to portray that at
Mm-mm.
all. Pin in that. Can we talk, however, about how wonderful the villain is? All this to say, the bad guy is a bad guy is a bad guy, and is
Oh,
so
so good.
such a good actor. I think he's
Yes.
literally just in there titled as the guy. Like he doesn't
Hmm.
even get a name,
No.
right? And there was an early mistake of mine where maybe possibly kind of sort of I like bad guys. Who knew? Again, strange. And there's a scene where you see him flip on the like the sociopath, right? The psychopath, where he's talking to Eve and he's like being all threatening and creepy, and some dude comes over and it's like, "Hey, are you guys okay?" And he immediately, without hesitation, goes into like pitiful boyfriend breaking up in public. And the transition was so smooth. The
He's
acting on
so
that,
good. He is
wonderful.
such a fucking standout in this. Not to say that the actress who plays Eve isn't, but I feel like this movie hard focuses on him more than
Yes.
anything else, which is another interesting thing. You think like they're trying to do this retelling of a story where the main character is the female, but they spend so much time with him specifically, and I think that that works in their favor in a weird way, just because he's so damn good. Just
Great or terrible bad guy. And I needed to like take my walk back my steps of, oh, I had a little crush. Once I realized how terrible and horrible and nothing redeemable about this man,
nothing.
not even an iota. Not enough movies do that these days, where they try to do something where like, oh, he can be saved. No, no, no. This guy was bad and deserved everything that happened to him.
Oh, for sure.
No regrets.
It,
Like
even despite that, though, you know there's someone out there, I'm not pointing any fingers, that's like, I can save him, though. I can do that. As I'm wearing my, like, Wesker shirt, like,
sure.
yeah.
No, I can fix him. It's fine. It's
Exactly.
fine. It's good. Oh my god. I hmm. I stammer. My god. I do think his acting stands out more so because I felt like the rest of the acting was pretty stiff.
Hmm.
It felt a little student film projecty, and that surprised me. And I couldn't tell what was on purpose, what was maybe a language thing, because I think the main actress is French. The brief glance I gave indicated, I think, French. I'm not sure if that was it, but I noticed early. I'm like, I can't tell if it's on purpose or not,
Right.
which is dangerous. Not that we're the end all be all, right?
Right.
Of something if it's good or not, or if
Right.
it's right. Like I never want to be the person to be like, oh, what we say is 100% fact. Just
Right.
from our perspective, with our experience, a little odd, hard to tell.
I will say though, as far as, and I don't know if this is just the writing or the actress
Mhm.
or a little combination of both, but she does do a really good job like the main guy does a really good job with like his crescendo into madness, and she does a
Mhm.
really good job with her like descent into madness. And I think that
Feral.
yeah,
Think absolutely
it works
feral.
well for her. I wish there was just a little bit fucking more of that like process of how she's getting there, but again, it hard focuses on the villain. So,
Interesting, to the point that you almost makes you wonder, is the main character the villain?
right.
But again, I don't think so, because we don't really get a character arc, right? It's
Right.
stagnant. There's an apology at the end, but that's not the apology of someone who's really meaning it. It's
Right.
someone trying to save their own hide.
Yeah.
It's someone who's if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, like you've heard that apology, you've heard
Yeah.
that speech he gives at the end before, which again, kudos, because well written. If you've been there, if you've experienced
Right.
it. If, to be fair, it triggered me a little bit hearing it, where I got a little emotional having been in that situation before. So well done. I just wish I had known, so I could have prepared myself a little bit
Right.
for it,
Yeah.
right? Um, I feel like on the whole, congrats. I might just beat this till it's into like the dirt 6 feet below. But the overall commentary, I felt like women aren't believed and they have to fight for their lives trying to get justice
Right.
while people watch on helpless to do anything. And like that was their take on misogyny.
Right.
And just it's a really brutal take. And I'm not sure if it was handled with class or I've definitely seen far worse media talking about misogyny
Right.
and assault and the such. Maybe
Tact?
it's all tact, maybe some of it, care, grace. There's a lot of words here. I feel like it's similar to the commentary on asylum horror, right? This idea of treating mental health and
Right.
being in an asylum as something really horrible and awful to experience, because this happened to real people. So it's not just like a scary story to tell
Right.
people, and it villainizes something that doesn't necessarily need to be villainized. I think this for me is fitting kind of in that category of this happens to people. Why? Not that we're making light of it, but it's an interesting pull for horror
Yeah.
in a
It
very real way.
it reminds me a little of redacted movie, that name I cannot say, but if you are into horror films and you know all of the big time like assault revenge horror movies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But in that movie, the difference is that they show way too graphically, in my opinion. I don't personally like this movie for that reason, like what happens to
Mhm.
this female character, and then the whole rest of the bulk of that movie is her getting her revenge on them, like, and that's also extremely graphic, whereas like
Yeah.
this movie is just what's happening exactly.
Yeah,
How do
3 plots, and they all kind of tied together, but not satisfactory. I
right.
wouldn't say we were left with questions, right?
I
Just like
was
themes. A lot of my questions were like, okay, animals, forest.
right.
What's our connection here beyond you just saying animals are protecting her?
Right. And I wish we would have seen more of that. Like they pushed
Mhm,
that a little bit at one point, or 2 points really.
mhm.
Um but again, like it's not enough substance for what I feel like they're trying to do. There were so many different storytelling elements that like my brain couldn't keep up with what the hell was going on. And I was
Mhm.
like, I feel like if you would have just picked one overarching thing and really like honed in on it, I would have really liked this movie, and maybe not
I
have
agree.
marketed it as a retelling of Red Riding Hood. But I don't know.
The ways here, we can do our checklist. Here's how it was a retelling. The main character wears a red jacket. Also, fun fact: the quick store, convenience store
Mm-hmm.
clerk also wears red. The only other
He
person in the show
does.
to
You're
really
right.
wear red, and
Right.
something bad happens to him.
I really
So
liked him too.
yeah, he was a
Of
cool character.
of course.
Of
That
course.
happens to people I
I,
like.
I clocked the red, and I'm like, oh yeah, anything in red's gonna be hunted. Neat. That was like the early symbolism we got, right? Of anything in red's gonna have that experience.
That makes sense. I didn't
Then
even like make that correlation, to be honest.
congratulations. Hi, that's why I'm here. Then we have a grandmother dies, killed by the wolf.
Right.
There's a forest. Am I missing? Is that and Little Red Riding Hood kills the wolf. That's that's our things. That's it. And it's Little Red Riding Hood. How many more elements could we possibly get?
Right.
Right. Maybe okay. I just had a little bit of a brain blast, and this might be giving it more credit than necessary. The wolf wears grandma's clothing to trick Little Red Riding Hood.
The camp scene.
He the camp scene, he also is really good at disguising himself to trick other people to trusting him.
True.
So that thinking about it goes, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's a good a little modern retelling version of it, I guess, instead of him running around in grandma's nightdress.
Yeah. You said also, I just this randomly just popped into my head. You said something earlier that when you were talking about the theme of like misogyny and stuff like that, that
Mhm.
reminded me of something that really bothered me.
Oh
Like
yeah, what
really
was it?
bothered me. The person who's texting her that we don't know anything about, but we assume is probably her current partner or a
Mhm,
recent ex partner. And I don't know if this was me like reaching, like I might have gotten on a fucking ladder to reach for this one, but I
sure.
told Asa when we were watching it, I was like, why do we need to include the fact that this person is likely in a relationship in order for us to like what is the point in that? So we don't feel as bad for her for what happens, or like what do we do? What are we doing with that?
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. The only thing I could think of is again the mom figure, someone waiting for Little Red Riding Hood to come back,
True.
right? You need a figure there, but you're right. Why does it have to be a partner? Why couldn't it have been a friend or something? And it's because it's the inciting incident, right? Where she's going to the bar when she shouldn't be going to the bar. Sorry, it's so victim blamey. It's gross.
It
It's
felt
gross,
like
but it's
it. Like
awful.
that's what that whole thing felt like to me, was just the
Mhm,
fact that she's clear like used her fucking clearly misogynistic bosses, or her boss, the
mhm,
people she works for, who are really shitty, and that's established pretty early on. Like why not just use them? Or and even when she finds the phone in the trunk, the
mhm,
whoever the last person was that they did that to, their mom was calling them. So why not use her fucking mom? Like why did it have to be a partner and she's doing something wrong by going to a bar and
mhm.
flirting with this guy and all this shit? I don't know. I just it kind of just rubbed me the wrong way a
Because
little bit.
it's because Little Red Riding Hood goes off the path that you shouldn't go off the path.
True.
Modern retelling. But when you put it in the frame of misogyny, which obviously apparently means assault, which is such an interesting way to say, hey, we want to talk about misogyny. Let's talk about assault, this really traumatic thing that happens. Awful. Like, again, it doesn't make me feel better knowing that's their Little Red Riding Hood went off the path was
Right.
to go cheat on her partner in a bar. Like, that's not the same as going exploring in the woods because you're a kid
Yeah.
and you don't want to listen to mom. It's different. Yeah. It's you're right. It's gross and there's more Little Red Riding Hood elements than I remembered. I'm glad we're talking about it, but again, I just don't think it was tact. I think tact is the right word you used earlier. It could have been handled with just a little bit more tact. And I say that framed in a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. If you
Right.
took that part out, which I've only seen in one summary, right? They don't try to really insinuate it in the trailer. It's just that she has a red jacket in the trailer. If just the packaging for this movie had been different, my expectations had been different,
Yeah.
maybe I would have liked this movie more. But currently, I feel lied to as a viewer, and that makes the overall viewing experience really hard for me.
Yeah. I will say though, it's not all
Mhm.
negative, y'all. Relax.
It's not
It's
all
not all
negative.
negative. I have a couple things actually
Yes,
that
yes,
I
yes, yes.
really fucking liked about this.
Mhm.
The camera shots, for one, super
You're
fucking
right.
nice. And like the transitions between scenes and stuff, really nice. And of course, we all knew this was coming because it's
What
coming
is
from
it?
me, right?
What is it?
The gore and the practical effects when they do show that stuff, loved it. Super cool. Really, really, really liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think it was the arrow that got me, and I'm like,
Mm,
again, Amber's loving this.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Um,
say it every time.
The only thing I didn't really like about that whole thing was the fact that she got up.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Pass the torch on a little bit on that,
Yeah.
but it's fine. And then again, things that I notice, right? Get the bingo board ready. The sound design,
Mm,
not so much music, but they did a really good job of highlighting sounds that were meant to make you uncomfortable.
yeah.
So when she's in the convenience store looking at the card rack, how squeaky that is. I'm like, man, that's really highlighted. There's a point where there's some misuse of duct tape, we could say, and the way of the stretching ripples
Mm,
duct tape, it was super highlighted. There's a few other moments like that too, where just things that were meant to make you uncomfortable, they're like, we're gonna make sure you hear those sound effects. Not even
yeah,
so much music, but the sound effects. And I
I
thought
like that.
the folio was really well done. One of the last notes I have isn't so much about the movie, but watching this, right? So it's about a woman gets captured, has to survive in the woods, and just moments where she has to like find a river to drink water and blueberries to eat, and she's just surviving. I have a story about my dad, which he does not remember, and it's great because it traumatized me for forever.
Mm,
Where I used to live, used to live in Montana, very snowy, very icy, and there was this bridge in town, and very casually, might I add, my dad's driving across this bridge in the middle of winter. And he's like, if we hit a patch of ice, we just go right over the bridge. I'm like, what? I'm like 16, 17. What? He's like, yeah, you have to think. You have to think about how cold that water is. And to survive something like that, you have to want to survive. And then we just drove home like he didn't just drop that on me. And I think about that a lot. In the sense of, God, could I survive this? And it's like a little bit like final girl logic, right?
right,
How bad do you want to live? How bad do you want to survive? Because that's what is going to determine if you do survive. And I had that playing in the back of my head of just how determined are you
right,
to live? And I think that is an impactful message from this of how hard she goes to live in the
right,
forest. And then again, her kind of feral spiral that happens. How much are you ready to lose of yourself to make sure you survive? So I had some of that impact in my back of my brain that made those scenes better for me, I guess.
okay.
But my question for you is, do you think you'd want to survive that bad? Do you think you would have been able to get out of that? This really crazy hypothetical situation. If you were a worm, would you still love me, Amber?
This is my favorite question to ask anybody ever. Listen, little fun fact about those of you that don't know me personally, I am stubborn. So if I'm surviving for nothing else other than to look you in the eye and be like, fuck you, I survived this, then I'll survive it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And that's why you're final girl. 100% that's why you're final girl.
Stubborn as shit. Well, I don't know. At a normal slasher movie, I don't know if I'd be final girl. Because, like, I don't know. It depends. Like, if I'm the first person that gets attacked, eh, but like it is what it is.
To be fair, that was about the answer I anticipated, but I like hearing it. So thanks for humoring me and my worm, my horror worm question. Not that turning into a worm isn't a horror story in and of itself, but that's fine.
That would be my horror story. Because I'm scared of birds sometimes. So if I was a worm, they would be all over me. You know? I don't know.
I have or had a buddy at the time that when that question was really popular, making the rounds, like seriously making the rounds before it got memeified. The response wasn't what I anticipated. Just the automatic assumption that they would be a worm too, and I really
Ooh.
appreciated that at the time. It wasn't so much like they wouldn't still be around because they're humans. Like no, now we're just two worm friends chilling and hanging out, and it was such a wholesome, sweet response.
I love
Um,
that.
Right, A plus, 10 out of 10. Anything else I have to say on it, I think, is just repeating what I was really hammering home at the beginning. I lied. I have one more note.
Liar.
I lied. I'm a fibber. I'm a dirty liar fibber. As much as I just poo-pooed on this, I still found myself in like the last 20 minutes literally biting my nails and unable to stop watching.
Yeah.
So they did a good job of building the suspense and, "Oh god, how is this going to end?" within, like, that last 20 minutes. Um, so I'm not here to say it was the worst movie ever written. That is an extreme, and nothing is usually living at those extremes.
Right.
Just if you watch it, please be aware of all this other context around it, because I think you'll enjoy it a lot more than probably we did.
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm pretty confident in the fact that if I would have had a better understanding of what this movie was before I watched it, that I would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree entirely. It's just hard when you feel like you've been lied to
I
as a
don't like
consumer,
that.
right? Whether it was out of ignorance or on purpose because they knew people wouldn't really want to watch this.
Right.
It's dark. If they
It
knew
is.
the real thing, it's pretty dark. Uh, But it's okay. We branched out.
Mhm.
This technically wasn't a slasher. It technically wasn't a ghost story. Actually, not even close to a ghost story. If anything, it was closer to the slasher, but then also nothing to do with slashers.
Right.
So I think we finally branched out to something that we hadn't really watched before. So good job, us. I'm proud of us. It's okay that it wasn't exactly to our liking because we still found some worth in it. Pat
About to
ourselves.
break that streak though.
Oh yeah? What are we watching next? A streak of one day. I'm gonna get us like a zero incidents kind of board. How many
Oh my
days has it
god,
been?
imagine. So, next week is
Yeah.
my pick, and I went back to my cliche bullshit and
Yay!
and I picked a movie called Random Acts of Violence, which according to
Hmm.
the Shudder synopsis says when comic book creator Todd Walkley embarks on a road trip to a convention, people start getting killed. It soon becomes clear that a crazed fan is using Todd's Slasher Man comic as inspiration for the brutal murders. As the bodies pile up and Todd's friends and family become victims themselves, Todd will be forced to take artistic responsibility.
It's like responsibility. Oh gosh. Okay, all right. Sounds good. I'm ready. I am ready to return back to our comfort zone.
Listen, the movie poster for this
Mhm.
is bright ass pink and bright ass blue, so let's get it.
Check, check, check.
It's
I'm
me.
so excited. Wow, shoot. Okay, cool. I'm excited to watch it for next week. In between now and then, though, things to consider. One, we have merch. Did you see this? Did you see this lovely shirt of ours? It's wonderful. You might have seen it on last episode. It's great. It's super wonderful. My friendo got it for me, and I am very excited because now I know just how amazing the merch is. You should definitely check it out. We have a link down below that's going to go towards supporting the podcast and doing stuff in the future with the podcast. Um, I got to see the mugs firsthand and the sweater, like the big sweater firsthand, and everything came out with such great quality. So I could actually say, first just saying, oh, our stuff is fun, you should get it. Like it's good quality. We also did our best to keep prices low, so we are not making a high profit off of it. We want to make sure that you all can represent your favorite horror podcast. Wouldn't you know it? Look at that. Hey Amber, tell us about Discord.
We have a whole ass Discord just for you. It's still kind of new. We'll be doing movie nights, book clubs. Obviously, despite the strike, since we're not actually talking about them, we have a we have the ability to do so in Discord. So if you ever want to stop by, you see a movie you love, or watch a movie with us, and we want to talk about it, it's free fucking rain. Let's go. Um, we'll also be doing gaming night, or alternatively, if you just want to hang out and chill and get to know us and let us get to know you, that's the place for you.
Nailed it. Perfect. Boy, I sure love our Discord.
Same.
Last but not least, we've mentioned it a few times. Hey, there's a Reddit strike going on. If you have not watched our announcement update video, we just want to re-emphasize we're going to be limiting our content currently. Right now, we can confidently say that we're doing Shutter Sundays, but since we do not know how long the strike will last, hopefully it'll end sooner rather than later. That we are still trying to figure out other videos to bring to you. So if there's something that stands out that you really want to hear about, go ahead and put in that in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. You're used to it by now. We'd love to see it though, and we're going to continue to making content that's friendly in that way. That was like the most flat way I could express that, but here we are. I don't feel like retaking it, so you know what I mean. You've been watching us long enough, probably. It's a shame this is your first video. um, but with all that being said, hey Amber, when we're not running through the woods making friends with deer, where can we find you?
Oh, oh dear, that'd be cute.
Right.
Sorry. Um, right now, due to crazy internet social media things, you can find me on Twitch 5 days a week, every Monday through Friday. Um, I stream horror games, and
Playing highly anticipated upcoming horror games.
yes, and yeah, that's the main place you'll be able to find me, and in our Discord, like I said, hanging out there all the time.
You can find me also on the social medias at Roll for Alex. I'll be honest, I say I've transitioned over to Blue Sky. That's mostly true, except that I just so rarely post on social medias. And right now I have a little bit of social media anxiety. I just don't even know what to post besides promotions. So here's the thing. This is what you'd be catching on the social medias anyways. Thing number one, on Thursday nights, I'm over on the Games Tavern on YouTube, where I am playing Simon Roselock during a Dungeons and Dragons actual play. And then on Sundays, I'm on Twitch with the Exquisite Corpse Presents. On Sundays, I am over on Twitch with the Exquisite Corpse Presents at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Renaissance du Reign. It is a King Arthur alternative universe Thirsty Sword lesbian game. It's super duper
Fuck
fun.
yeah.
I'm playing Sarah Griffin Toussaint, who is the daughter of Sir Kay. So, if you like that kind of thing, those are the two places you can find me playing most often. I'm also going to be doing other things in the future, but we'll keep you informed of those if you don't feel like following me in this case on these social medias. I think I've talked enough. I feel like I've talked enough. Can I be done, Amber? Are we done?
Mm, yeah, might as well.
Okay, let's just wrap it up. Pack it in, boys. Well, until next time, my friends, be sure to check under your bed for monsters because I can't.
And I won't.
Bye.
Bye.